Rain traced lazy paths down the windowpane, glistening like tears against the faint glow of the city. Claire sat on the edge of her small bed, staring at the reflection in the cracked mirror that hung crookedly above her dresser. She had changed outfits 3 times already, but nothing looked right. Nothing made her feel like a woman again, only a mother pretending to remember how. Her fingers trembled as she adjusted the straps on her worn heels. They pinched slightly, but she didn't have any others. Her friend Megan had insisted she go on this blind date, claiming the man was different, kind, grounded, maybe even perfect for her. Claire wasn't so sure. Perfect was a word she'd stopped believing in long ago, right around the time her ex, Ryan, walked out the door the day she told him she was pregnant. That was 5 years ago. Since then, life had been about survival. Paying bills on time, cooking simple dinners, reading bedtime stories until Lily drifted off with her little hand wrapped around Claire's finger. Now, as she caught her reflection again, she barely recognized herself. The faded blue dress hugged her waist, but the tiredness in her eyes told the real story: the sleepless nights, the double shifts, the quiet fear that she was failing in ways no one saw. From the next room, a soft, curious voice interrupted her thoughts. "Mommy, is he nice?" Claire turned, and there she was, her 5-year-old daughter, sitting cross-legged on the bed in her unicorn pajamas, hugging a stuffed rabbit to her chest. Lily's brown curls framed her face, her eyes full of innocent curiosity and trust. Claire managed a smile. "He's probably nice, sweetheart. But you don't have to worry about him." "Is he going to be my daddy?" Lily asked matter-of-factly, tilting her head. The question pierced through Claire's heart like a pin through silk. She sat beside her daughter and brushed her curls back gently. "No, baby. Mommy's just meeting a friend, okay? Just for dinner. You'll be here with Mrs. Thompson." Lily frowned in concentration. "But you look really pretty. Like a princess." A lump formed in Claire's throat. "Thank you, Angel, but even princesses have to come home before midnight." Lily giggled, not understanding the ache behind her mother's words. After tucking her in and double-checking that Mrs. Thompson had the emergency numbers, Claire slipped on her coat and stepped into the cold night. The city air smelled of rain and asphalt. She hugged her arms tightly around herself, trying to steady her heartbeat. It had been so long since she'd gone out just for herself. Every minute away from Lily usually came with guilt attached, but tonight, for once, she allowed herself to hope. Maybe this would just be dinner. Maybe it would be awkward and forgettable. Or maybe, just maybe, it would remind her what it felt like to be seen again. When she arrived at the restaurant, the sight nearly took her breath away. The place gleamed with gold accents and soft candlelight reflecting off crystal glassware. It was elegant, intimate, the kind of place she'd only seen in magazines. She immediately felt out of place. Her thrift store dress suddenly felt cheap, her hands rough from cleaning jobs. She approached the hostess with a tentative smile. "Reservation for Claire Walters." The hostess scanned the list and nodded with a polite smile. "Of course, right this way." As Claire followed, her stomach twisted with anxiety. What if he saw her and immediately regretted agreeing to this? What if he was disappointed? Then she saw him. Ethan Hale. He stood from the table as soon as she approached. Tall, with dark hair brushed neatly back and a calm confidence that seemed to quiet the room around him. His charcoal suit fit perfectly, but it was his eyes that stopped her, warm, steady, and curious, as though he already saw something in her worth knowing. "Claire," he said, his voice smooth but gentle. "It's really good to meet you." She felt her pulse quicken. "You too, Ethan." He pulled out her chair, an old-fashioned gesture that made her cheeks warm. For a few minutes, the silence between them was delicate, fragile. Then, slowly, conversation began to unfold, like cautious hands opening a gift. He asked her about her favorite books, her job at the local store, the places she wanted to visit someday. And she found herself answering honestly, laughing even, surprised by how easily the words came. He listened, truly listened, in a way that most people didn't. His eyes never drifted to his phone or the waiter. He seemed genuinely interested, like every word she said mattered. When she asked about him, he was modest. "I work in investments." "Boring stuff, really," he said with a shrug. But there was something in his tone, a hint of humility, almost as if he didn't want his success to make her uncomfortable. She smiled faintly. You don't strike me as the boring type. Maybe I'm just good at pretending. For the first time in years, Claire laughed, a real, unguarded laugh that echoed softly in the space between them. Halfway through dinner, the conversation took a turn that made her heart race. So, Ethan said lightly, his gaze still kind. Do you have family around here? The question seemed innocent enough, but to Claire, it was a minefield. Her fingers tightened around her napkin. She could lie, say she lived alone, or that her parents visited often. But she was tired of pretending. I have my daughter, she said softly. Lily, she's 5. There it was, the moment of truth. She watched his face closely, waiting for the shift. The awkward pause. The polite smile followed by emotional distance. It was always the same. But it didn't come. Instead, Ethan smiled gently. 5, huh, that's a great age. Everything is still magical. Claire blinked, stunned. You don't mind. Mind, he repeated, as though the idea itself was absurd. Claire, you're a mother. That's something to admire, not hide. Her breath caught. You're the first person who's ever said that. He tilted his head. Then you've been meeting the wrong people. The rest of the night unfolded like a quiet miracle. They talked about childhood dreams and favorite songs. He made her laugh until her stomach hurt. For a moment, she forgot she was a woman who'd been left behind, forgotten by love. She felt alive again. When dessert came, Ethan smiled mischievously. You mentioned Lily has a sweet tooth. Claire nodded, surprised. How did you? I pay attention, he said simply. Then he told the waiter, can we get another slice to go? Chocolate, please. Her chest tightened with emotion. It was such a small gesture, but it meant more than any grand romantic act ever could. By the time the check arrived, Claire felt light, lighter than she'd felt in years. She hadn't expected connection, she hadn't expected warmth, and she certainly hadn't expected hope. Outside, rain had started again, soft and rhythmic. Ethan walked her to her car, holding his coat above her head like a makeshift umbrella. Thank you, she said quietly, turning to him under the soft glow of the streetlight. For everything. For not making this weird. He chuckled. Why would it be weird? Because most people don't want to date a woman with a kid. He met her eyes, his expression serious now. Then most people are fools. Her breath hitched. She didn't know what to say, so she just stood there, rain tapping lightly against their shoulders. Finally, she whispered, you don't even know me. Not yet, he said with a soft smile. But I'd like to. For a moment, time seemed to still. The world around them blurred. The rain, the passing cars, the distant hum of the city, and there was only the warmth in his eyes and the strange, unexpected feeling blooming inside her. When she finally drove home, she was smiling without meaning to. Mrs. Thompson was dozing on the couch, and Lily had fallen asleep with her stuffed rabbit tucked under her chin. Claire slipped out of her shoes and tiptoed into her daughter's room. She knelt beside the bed, brushing a stray curl from Lily's forehead. Maybe, she whispered, just maybe, Mommy's allowed to dream again. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A new message. Ethan. Tonight was perfect. Next time, I'd love to meet the part of you who loves chocolate cake. Claire's heart swelled, then tightened with uncertainty. She stared at the words for a long moment. He seemed genuine, but she had been wrong before. Still, as she set her phone down and climbed into bed beside her sleeping daughter, a quiet smile curved her lips. For the first time in years, she let herself imagine what tomorrow could bring. And somewhere deep inside her, under the fear, the doubts, the scars, hope flickered back to life. The next morning, sunlight filtered gently through the thin curtains, spilling across Claire's modest apartment. The air still smelled faintly of rain from the night before. Claire stirred awake slowly, her phone still clutched in her hand, the last message from Ethan glowing faintly on the screen. Tonight was perfect. Next time, I'd love to meet the part of you who loves chocolate cake. She read it again, her heart twisting in that strange place between fear and excitement. It had been so long since a man had said something that made her smile, and mean it. Down the hallway, a soft voice broke through her thoughts. Mommy, are you awake? Claire turned and saw Lily standing in the doorway, hair sticking up in every direction, hugging her stuffed rabbit tight. I'm awake, Angel. Come here. Lily climbed into bed, curling up beside her mother. Did you have fun with your friend? Claire brushed a curl from her daughter's face and nodded. I did. He was very nice. Lily smiled sleepily. Did he give you cake? Claire laughed, reaching for the small paper bag on her nightstand. Actually, he gave you cake. Lily's eyes widened. For me, for you. They shared the slice in bed, chocolate crumbs dotting the sheets as they giggled together. For a few precious moments, it was just them, no worries about the bills, no fear of heartbreak, just laughter and sweetness on their tongues. But as Claire watched her daughter lick frosting from her fingers, a familiar doubt crept back in. Ethan seemed too good to be true. Men like him, confident, wealthy, calm, didn't stay with women like her. Women with baggage, with children, so she told herself to take things slowly. Maybe he'd forget about her. Maybe it was just a nice evening. Except he didn't forget. Over the next few days, he texted her every morning, little things that made her smile. Hope your day's not too busy. Tell Lily I'm still hunting for the world's best cake. Thinking about our next adventure. He was careful, never pushy. And that made her want to say yes. When he finally asked to see her again, maybe this time, the three of us, she hesitated only for a moment before agreeing. Saturday arrived warm and bright. The park near their apartment was bursting with life, children running between swings, dogs chasing frisbees, sunlight dancing on the lake. Claire wore a soft pink dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. Lily skipped ahead of her, holding her hand one moment, running toward the ice cream stand the next. Ethan was already there when they arrived, not in a suit this time, but jeans and a gray sweater. He looked younger somehow, more human. His sleeves rolled up and a genuine smile lighting his face as he waved. Claire felt her stomach flutter nervously. Hey, he said, standing to greet them. His eyes softened when they landed on Lily. And you must be the chocolate cake expert. Lily grinned shyly and half hid behind her mother's leg. Ethan crouched down so he was eye level with her. I brought something for you to test. But you have to promise to be honest. He opened a small box, revealing a perfectly swirled chocolate cupcake topped with gold sprinkles. Lily gasped. That's so pretty. Pretty's one thing, he said with a wink. But is it delicious? She giggled, taking it with both hands. I'll let you know. As Lily ran toward the swings, cupcake in hand, Ethan turned to Claire. She's incredible. Claire smiled, though her eyes glistened slightly. She's my whole world. He nodded. I can see that. They sat together on a park bench, watching Lily laugh as she swung higher and higher. The sound of her joy carried through the air, pure and unfiltered. Thank you for this, Claire said after a moment. For not being scared away. Ethan frowned slightly. Scared away. Most men don't want this, she said softly, gesturing toward her daughter. The responsibility, the history, they say they do, but when reality shows up with sticky fingers and bedtime tantrums, they run. He was quiet for a moment, then turned to her. Claire, she's part of you. And if I'm going to care about you, I can't just ignore the parts that make you who you are. The sincerity in his voice made her chest ache. No one had ever spoken to her like that. They spent the afternoon walking through the park, feeding ducks, sharing ice cream, listening to Lily's endless stories about her imaginary friends. Ethan was patient, laughing at every detail, never once checking his phone. He pushed Lily on the swing, pretended to lose a tag, and carried her on his shoulders when she got tired. By the end of the day, Claire's heart felt full, and terrified. When they got home, she tucked Lily into bed and found Ethan waiting by the door. He looked hesitant, almost shy. I had a great day, he said quietly. Me too. She's wonderful. And you're even more incredible than I thought. Claire felt heat rise to her cheeks. You don't have to say that. I know. He smiled faintly. That's why I am. Before she could respond, he leaned in and kissed her cheek. Good night, Claire. After he left, she sat in the quiet apartment for a long time, her hand pressed against her skin where his lips had touched. It had been years since someone had made her feel this way, seen, cherished, wanted. Weeks passed, and Ethan became part of their rhythm. He joined them for Sunday breakfasts, brought Lily coloring books, fixed a leaky faucet without being asked. He never acted like a guest, just someone who belonged. But one evening, as they all sat together watching a movie, Lily fell asleep with her head on his lap. Ethan brushed a strand of her hair gently aside, his expression soft. Claire watched, her heart swelling and breaking all at once. "Ethan," she whispered, "what are we doing?" He looked up. "What do you mean, this? You and me, you and her." Her voice trembled. "I don't want to confuse her. She's already lost so much." He reached for her hand. "Claire, I'm not going anywhere." She shook her head. "You say that now, but..." He stopped her gently. "I don't say things I don't mean. You and Lily, you're not a complication to me. You're the reason I wake up smiling." Her eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, I love you, Claire," he said quietly. "I love you both." The words hung between them, trembling like a fragile truth she wasn't sure she deserved. But when she looked at him, she saw nothing but sincerity. And for the first time in years, she let herself believe it. They grew closer after that. He taught Lily how to ride a bike, read bedtime stories in funny voices, and made pancakes on Saturday mornings. When Claire came home from work exhausted, he'd already have dinner ready. It wasn't glamorous or dramatic. It was simple, steady, real. Then, one evening, he invited them both to a rooftop restaurant overlooking the city. The skyline glittered like 1,000 scattered stars. Lily wore a small pink dress and a flower in her hair, and Claire couldn't stop staring at her daughter's happiness, or at Ethan, who looked just as nervous as she felt. After dessert, Ethan stood and walked around the table, kneeling beside Lily. "Hey, kiddo," he said softly. "Can I ask you something?" She blinked up at him. "What? Would it be okay if I became your dad?" Claire gasped. "Ethan." But Lily's face lit up like the sunrise. "Really? Like, forever, forever," he said, smiling. Lily threw her arms around his neck, and tears slipped down Claire's cheeks before she could stop them. Ethan looked at her over Lily's shoulder, his eyes glistening too. A few months later, they stood together in a small garden surrounded by friends. Claire wore a simple white dress. Lily carried a basket of petals, her grin wide and proud. When Ethan took Claire's hand, he whispered, "You gave me a family I didn't even know I was missing." "And you gave us a home," she replied, her voice trembling with emotion. As they exchanged vows, Lily ran up and slipped her small hand into both of theirs. The minister smiled, pausing before finishing the ceremony. When Ethan kissed Claire, the crowd cheered, and Lily laughed, the sound bright and full of promise. Later that night, as they danced under fairy lights, Ethan lifted Lily in his arms. "You know what I told your mom the night we met?" he said softly. "What?" "I said, she's part of you. And she always will be." Lily rested her head on his shoulder, and Claire watched them through tear-blurred eyes, her heart overflowing. She had spent years fearing her daughter would scare men away. But the man who truly loved her had said the words that changed everything. "She's part of you, and that means she's part of me, too." And as the three of them swayed together beneath the starlit sky, Claire knew she'd finally found the kind of love that didn't just accept her life, it embraced it completely, forever.